With 7 billion people on this planet, our world is hyper competitive. Each one of us strives to be the best, the winner, and the hustler. We don't want to be left behind. Our generation doesn't just want to work anymore. We want to perform meaningful work. We want to make an impact. We want to make a dent on this planet. But how do we strike a balance? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we maintain a balanced life while also doing our best work? So today we are going to discuss just that, work-life balance. We'll talk about what it means to have a balanced life, what it means to all of us when we were young. With work from home, it is more important than ever to find that balance. We are all in the midst of our career and life, and some of us hold managerial positions with greater responsibilities, while some of us are new parents. So we have families both at home and at work, and they all look up to us. So how we balance it all. So joining our discussion on this topic today are Subin, Umit, and Irina, and I would like them to introduce themselves. How about Subin? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you are in life right now?
Sure. Thanks, Viswas. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast today, Minds Without Borders. We're going to be talking about work-life balance, and on that topic, I work as a software quality manager, software quality engineer. Basically, what that means is similar to software engineering, but I work on the quality side or testing side of the engineering. How about you, Mint?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Amit Shrestha. I'm an assistant professor at Colorado State University, and I primarily teach courses in public health and global health to master's student and do a little bit of research on the side. And as we progress through this episode, I'll talk more about it. And now I'll pass it on to Irina.
Hi, I'm Irina. I work as a VP in risk management in a bank. I'm a CPA as my background. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for your introduction. I wanted to start with what you guys do so that our listeners know that we're not just high schoolers or some kids talking about work-life balance here. We have some husties here. So, yeah, so I wanted to, start by going into the basic question: what does life balance mean to you? And also, I would like you guys to touch upon how that changed over the years when you started the career versus now. How about I like Irina, who is our guest today, to start off.
Sure. Thanks for the question. So early work-life balance to me was, I think earlier in my career, I spent a lot of time on the work side of the work-life balance. I was really focused on my work. I used to work for KPMG, which is a consulting firm, which meant a lot of long hours. And I was traveling to different client sites at the time. So, along with working and the travel time I also was trying to study for my certified public accountant licensing exam. So, like, anytime I wasn't working, I was actually like in my room, huddling down to study for the exam that I had to take. So, at that point, I think I was pretty much 100% dedicated to my work. I really didn't have a lot of free time to just hang out with my family, my friends. It was very limited time that I would get to do things outside of work and being focused on my career, because I was still in the time of building my career, learning a lot of new things. So really trying to build the trust within my company and building those relationships. But as things have progressed in my career and I'm more knowledgeable, so I don't need as much time to learn and understand the concepts. As I'm more knowledgeable, obviously that's reduced, right? I'm more productive in a shorter amount of time. And that has reduced. And I do feel where right now obviously it's probably 40% of my time for work, 60% of my time for life. Overall, I see it more as a cycle. So during my early career, I was probably 80% dedicated to work, 20% to life. Somewhere along the line, it became 50-50. And then now it's probably like 40% work, 60% life, where I can focus a lot more on my passions, on spending time with my family and friends and things like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you. That was a very nice introduction of what work-life balance and how it changed. And so I would like to go on to Umit here, who is a professor. So his profession is totally different from how it is in the industry, or since it's academia. I would like to see your view on what work-life balance means to you and how it changed over the years.
Yeah, as I was listening to Irina, right, I kept on thinking about one concept that is now I have more control over my time than previously. And what I mean by that is when I was trying to get a job in academia, or it was during the last years of my PhD program, I was constantly working, and for the folks who don't know, academia can be a little bit difficult to get in. So, you have to publish papers, you have to present, you have to be teaching as well, right? So time becomes really valuable in that juncture. So you're trying to maximize your output at that time. So during those years, I never really thought about having a work-life balance. I would work till midnight. Then you would go to bed. You wake up next morning. You do the same thing. So there was never really a line there between work and life outside of work, right? But now that I've gotten a position as an assistant professor, now I have a little bit of control over my time, saying I can dictate, saying, okay, now I want to do this, right? So now I'm being more intentional about it, and being more mindful about how I want to spend my time, and really kind of redefining what productivity looks for me. And I think that's the important thing for me right now, is that I have more control, where I'm not out here trying to prove to others, saying, hey, look at me, I'm this person like who's working all the time, right? And I think there is a sense of security that also comes as you get seasoned in any line of profession, right? That you get and start working, have some time under your belt, then you really don't have to prove yourself to others, and you're comfortable in that setting. So I think that's where I am at right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, wanted to pick up on that confidence note. Um, as we've discussed this before our recording, I was talking about how, and Irina said the same thing, how, earlier in my career, yeah, first let me backtrack and talk about the software industry. As I have, in the software industry, the 9 to 5 is not as traditional as in other industries, probably because of the kind of software, the way software is developed. A lot of times releases actually happen at night because people are actually using the software, so you don't want to break people's usage of that software. So we're usually doing releases at late night or in off hours when everybody's asleep. So in my career, 9 to 5 has always been more of a there's a blurry line between 9 to 5 and past five, right? So a lot of times I'm working at 6 a.m. in the morning, or 8 p.m. at night if my coworkers are in India or Ukraine or Argentina or England or whatever that may be. But just picking up on that confidence issue, I clearly remember, I'm sure you guys have done this too, when we were young, we used to pretend, even if there was nothing to do, we would have to find work or pretend to do work, or just go around asking questions. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing all the things that need to be done? Just trying to find ways to show, right? Show being the keyword, ways to show to your coworkers or your managers that you're actually working. But like Umid said, that's something that I just picked up on is as you get older, you get confident, and you're not worried if your coworker catches you looking at some flowers, or you're on Amazon on your screen, right? Because you're confident that you've done your work, you're going to be able to deliver on what is expected of you. So yeah, that has definitely changed, and that's something interesting that Umit brought up that I wanted to bring up. But yeah, outside of that, I was mentioning to you guys before the recording, work-life balance for me has always been less about the 9 to 5 and whether I'm checking my emails, not about whether I'm checking my emails post 5 o'clock or not, because in our industry we have to check Slack messages and messages coming in if there's an issue, and everybody has to jump on board, and it's all hands on deck. But it's less about being offline and more about just taking breaks in between work. And I try to do afternoon meditations these days, going out and having some coffee, or taking going on walks with coworkers, just having those mental breaks in between work. And of course, definitely also not overloading yourself in the evening time or in the morning time. Before, I would always, almost always, have prepare myself to work from 9 to 12. These days, I tell myself that I'm only going to work at night if there's something urgent that needs to be done, or I didn't get to finish something in the day because of all the noise, and something I need to deliver something by tomorrow morning. So I think work life balance is this tricky thing. And sorry, one more thing I wanted to talk about what Biswas mentioned. We talked about how when we're washing dishes or when we're going on a walk, we randomly think about work. I don't worry too much about that, because we've always heard these scientists like Einstein and other people, they were in a shower and an idea came to them. So we can't block those thoughts out. But there's definitely a difference in uh, taking that thought and what kind of action are we taking from that. I've gone from, oh, I have this thought, oh, I need to write this down, or I need to go into my computer right now and do something about it, or just having this sense of urgency. Versus these days, it's like, oh, if a thought comes to my head, something about work, if I can write it down on my phone, that's immediately available to me, then I'll do that. But a sense of calm is there, that if I do forget this idea, then it's okay. It came to me, then it might come to me again. But before, it used to be more of, I have to do something right away, action oriented. Whereas now it's a little, I'm a little calmer when it comes to those kind of things. I hope
Yeah.
that answers your questions.
Yeah, yeah, you did. Yeah, go ahead, Umit.
And one thing I wanted to clarify when I said having control of my time, right? I think I might not have done a good job explaining that. And what I was trying to refer to at that was, in the early days, you'd be working under a professor, you'd be a research assistant, working on the project. So you have to kind of, saying prove your metal, right? Saying, oh, like look at this latest study that's coming to our field. Like I know about this, right? So you'd be on that hustle. But now you've gone through that process and you're
You're
in
in
a
the show
position.
mode at the time, basically the show mode
Yeah,
we were just
right.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And and you're so much reliant on people's recommendation. You're trying to network. So it's just that process of, saying like, hey, like look at me, like I'm worth it, right? And I can be this independent person, or a person to lead this organization, or whatever field you may be in. But now we have gone through that process. Now we're in the places where we are in leadership position, right? So I think that changes a lot to where you're a lot calmer.
Yeah, and then I think because of that too is the culture. So every office, they have their own culture. Some office cultures are better than others in trying to set that work-life balance from a
Right.
leadership perspective. But I think as you go through and grow in your career, you yourself can set those boundaries.
Hmm.
You yourself can say, hey, if I'm going to be out of the office, I am out. I don't want to check my emails. I don't want to be messaged. I am out unless it's something very urgent. So in my early career days, when I used to try to take PTO, I would ask my manager, "Hey, I want to take PTO. Is it okay? If you need me, I can still be available through email this time of the day, or call me if something comes up." Right? I would make myself available, which now I've realized I didn't need to do that. So now I intentionally don't put emails on my phone. When I'm out, I say, hey, I'm on vacation. Please, everybody on my project, just know that I am out, and that is it. Like, I don't try to make myself available, go above and beyond, just for the sake of, showing that I am there. Like, I've built enough trust at this point in my career that it was like, hey, the work will be done when it needs to be done. I know the project's not getting delayed because I'm out on vacation, and that's the expectation that I'm going to set with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you bring a good point here, that turning off the email or not checking phones, because we are surrounded by these devices where we can have our emails on our watch, and the phone is now old technology, like it's been there for a while, but even now on our watch. And so so this is something I would have asked later, but then since we are on this, so how do you guys like avoid doing these kind of thinking of about work or responding to emails? What are the steps that you take? Ina mentioned that she doesn't check emails. Do you guys have any other things that you do to avoid working from on time when you're not supposed to work?
Yeah, basically, how do you disconnect from work?
Yeah, how you disconnect from work.
I mean, one thing I do is I check my email, but I don't respond. Right. So that's something that I'm trying to be good at, is that if I see an email come previously, I used to be of like, oh, I need to respond this right away, right? And whatever the expectation of the sender might be, they might be expecting now or later, that's, you know I would always respond. And now I am like, yeah, like I check my email, I see an email come through, and now I'm becoming better at assessing it, saying, oh, like, this can wait, right? Like, I can respond to this tomorrow or in few days. And that's where I am right now in my career, is to try to kind of temper that and say, hey, like, it's okay to not respond to emails right away. Whereas
Yeah,
previously I would be like, oh, like I need to respond to this person right away. So
yeah,
that's
for
one
me
thing.
that's very difficult because if I see something, I really have to respond or do something
Uh-huh.
about it, or at least I'll be thinking about it, if nothing else. So these days, I try not to check my emails or messages until maybe like 11 or 12 in the morning, so I can do whatever needs to
Hmm.
be done in the morning. How about you, Subin?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been able to. For me, I cannot not respond, or it's not even about responding. It's more about thoughts. So it's about your brain immediately uh, attaching to whatever message that came in, whether that be in email or again, in our industry, we have a lot more chatting like Slack, or before it used to be Skype or whatever it may be. So for me, I have to not see it. If I see it, I don't, even if I don't respond to it, I'm attached to that idea, and I'll be thinking about it, and I'll be, so I, especially these days, I have on iPhone. You guys should know this as well, and Google has this too. They have these modes, right? These, what do they call it? I forget, but basically
Sleep mode, that one I know.
yeah, there's a sleep mode where you can disconnect everything.
Yeah,
But I have
or
a work,
airplane mode.
yeah, a focus, I think they call it. Yeah,
Focus mode.
focus, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
focus
yeah.
modes. So I have a weekend focus mode, I have a meditation focus mode, I have a sleep focus mode, and I have a work focus mode. So I, on my work focus mode, I have arranged my apps in such a way that I have my main apps where if I want to see something, I can see it, but I don't get any personal notifications like Viber and messages. I can obviously check them if I want to, but I don't get the notifications,
Yeah.
so I do want to talk about, when talking about work life balance, I have had to learn to kind of do the opposite of what we think of work life balance, which is disconnecting from work when we're home. I also try to disconnect from home when I'm at work, because
Hmm.
in these, I was, you guys know, we have a Viber chat, and like there's a, like we're typing up messages like, like it's our work. I still do that a little bit, especially when I'm in front of the computer and the work is not busy, but I do try to disconnect my home messages or personal messages when I'm at work as well. So for my work time, I have this work focus, and I try as much as possible to stay in that focus. Lunchtime or when I'm going on a break or something, I'll check messages, but I try to keep that aside. And then at home, I have this weekend mode, especially in the weekend. There are no work emails come in, no Slack messages come in. I totally disconnect from the idea, not just seeing messages and not responding. I just totally disconnect from that idea. Especially before, my Sundays used to be super duper stressful. I think Sunday Scaries, there's literally a podcast about that. I think all of us, especially in America, we go through this.
Yeah, I have that. Yes.
Yeah,
Used to.
yeah, we hate Sundays. My wife, Ritu, she knows this. My face on a Sunday morning is, I'm a wholly different person on Sunday morning versus a Friday evening. As soon as I wake up Sunday morning, I'm like, oh, it's Sunday. I'm not even about to work, but the stress of work and what I might have to do to catch up for tomorrow is already starting to scare me. Mondays are actually like, I've already scared myself shitless from Sunday, so Monday is just like any other day, right?
Speaking of, one second, I'm gonna ask you something,
Okay.
Umi, about
Okay,
the
go for it.
Sunday blues. Yeah. So when I worked in industry for 3 4 years, and so during that time I did have those Sunday blues or the Sunday scary that you guys are talking about. But once I started back my PhD and then doing my research, and even now when I'm a postdoc, I don't have that Sunday blues. So I want to ask Umi that, do you have Sunday blues, Umi?
Yeah, I think everybody
You
has
do?
Sunday blues, right? Yeah, I mean,
Because I thought in my mind, like in academia, we don't have Sunday blues.
no,
I
I
think
mean,
it's changed for me. But yeah, go ahead, Ubit.
right? Like it's person. I think it changes from person to person. But I want to go back to the
Mm.
notification that's been said about his phone, and I think I have turned off all notification of all
Same,
the apps
same.
on
I
my
was
Mm-hmm.
gonna
phone,
say that.
Same. Yep.
Yeah.
and and guys, don't take this personally, but I've turned off the notification of the Viber chat group.
For good
So
reason.
Okay, for me, I hide the ones that I don't want to look. But
yeah,
then my Saint Davis and my football group, they are not hidden, but no notification. I don't get
yeah,
any
yeah.
Yeah,
notification. I
same
just
Okay,
here.
not.
good, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad
we're all in the same boat.
yeah, we're
But if it is too
boys.
much, then I hide them.
Yeah, like I'm like,
I have to put a
I've
password
done
to
that.
look at them.
Yeah.
I I use it at my
At will.
disposal, right? Like, oh, like I want to engage, then I just chat and
Yep.
somebody responds and we get into that. So that's one thing. The other thing about email, and I want to say this, and it might be useful for some of our listeners, I don't know, but one of my senior colleague, what he told me, and I'm practicing this about email, is that I have set aside a time in my day where I just respond to emails, right? So it could be like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. when you're kind of in that lull, you don't want to do anything, you don't want to read papers or do anything. And again, this is for academia, but that's how I deal with that, is like 2:30 to 3 p.m., or it could be the morning, right? Like I have like set time for it to respond to email. So there's that. Now coming to your point about Sunday blues in academia, I think, I mean, Monday is work week, you start getting emails and whatnot. So I mean, for me personally, there is a little bit of Sunday blues, but I see your point, right, where we don't have the set time in
Mm-hmm.
academia, because I teach Tuesdays and Thursdays. That day I'm teaching from 12 to 1:45, and then from 3 to 5 or something like that. And those days I get really busy, but then Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are a little bit easier. But then on Monday I have to start thinking about my lectures on Tuesday. So then I would get that Monday blues. I'm like, tomorrow I have to start thinking about this class, I need to do this, blah blah blah. So I do get Monday blues. That's the
Yeah.
short end of the thing, is I do have Monday blues or Sunday
Okay.
blues.
So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, just
used
wanted
to get the Sunday blues. I
yeah.
think it's changed now recently, and maybe it's because of remote work. I
Mhm.
think I used to get the Sunday blues because I used to think about my commute to go to work and all the traffic, and then spend the entire day at work, plan for work, and then come back. And it's a super long day by the time you
Uh-huh.
do your commute and get back home, right? Late in the
Yeah.
evening. So I didn't realize this until recently. I started working remotely and everybody's home. You can work from home. I've got a lot more flexibility where I'm not commuting as much. And so that has gone away. And I didn't realize it until recently when you're starting to talk about it, is that it's probably because of not just work, but the activities that it takes you, the commute and all of those activities, the planning and everything around it. So I think that was what my cause was.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. Actually, really good point. And Sunday blues for me was almost never about work itself. Honestly, like I enjoy working. You guys know I'm a nerd. Um, Nerdish. So I love sitting in front of the computer all the time. That's literally what I do. What I love to do, what I look to do. Whenever Ritu, my wife, says take a break, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to go sit down in front of my computer and do something, right? Whether that be productive things or watching YouTube, I'm in front of my computer all the time. So that didn't scare me. I realized later on in my life, or slightly later on, is that the Sunday blues is because of all the other things also that you have to do on Sunday. Like we always do laundry on Sunday. You got to start prepping the food for the week. You got to go grocery shopping on Sunday. The
Right.
thing that I hated the most was I don't get to sleep late on Sunday. I because I have to wake up early on Monday. That means I have to go to bed on time. I love going to bed late on a Friday or Saturday. So many other things. so maybe 30 to even 50% of that scare is related to, oh, I have to wake up on Monday and at 9 a.m. I have to be ready, mentally ready for, somebody might ask me a question, whatever it may be. I have to be mentally ready for that 9 a.m. on Monday or earlier, sometimes 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. But the rest of the 50% is just this life. Why did I choose this life to, I have to do my laundry again today. I have to do this. So I think so. I've tried to change some of that from a thought process perspective, but also from just keeping things more even. Like I try to go to bed on time on Friday and Saturday as well. That way, Sunday I don't feel as bad. I try to do the laundry earlier in the week if possible, so that I don't have to work. We try to do the grocery on Friday or Saturday, so that Sunday doesn't feel like such a drag. So I just wanted to add that as well.
I'm glad that we talked about these Sunday blues because I'm sure many of us go through this on Sunday and we don't know what's going on. At least for me, when I started my career, like I had the Sunday blues, but I didn't know what it was. Like I always was, I remember feeling anxious on Sunday and I thought I was the only one feeling that. But it's good to hear that, I'm sure the people who are listening to us, the early career people, they might be feeling better about, oh, it's not just them, everybody goes through that Sunday blues. So Irina mentioned something. I wanted to move on to that remote work, and she brought up that topic, which is nice. So since we are talking about having more balanced life now, and back in the days, because of commute or whatever, we had to spend so much time preparing for work and going to showing up at work meetings and whatnot. And now that we work from home, I think we can all agree on this, that it's we are more efficient when it comes to work. I think because there's not much distraction. However, at the same time, because now we are working from home, we brought the office to home.
Hmm.
So this is something I wanted to discuss with you guys. Like, so do you think working from home is helping us to have a balanced life, or it is actually running havoc in that sense that there's no now such thing as work-life balance anymore because we are constantly, we don't even know where to, like it's so hard. It was
Yeah,
already hard to
yeah,
draw that line. Now that the work
absolutely.
has come home, do we even have that line anymore? So I wanted to have a discussion on that. So I want to start with Irina. How about that?
Sure. Um, I think it's a mental state because even within since the time we've started remote work, it's changed for me. When we just got into the pandemic and everybody was working from home, just making sure I have the right setup because I was going to be spending so much more time in the house with my laptop. So having my desk set up, my chair set up, all of the logistics set up, right? All of that in itself. I was like, okay, I want to make sure like it really works for me. But before I was just like putting my laptop on my dining table and sitting on there. Obviously not good for my back and my shoulders.
Uh-huh.
I feel the stress and all
Yeah.
of that, right? But I think, but also there was a sense of like your family members being in the house and with somebody come in and knock at the door where you're in the middle of a video conference and you should be really focused on the meeting, right? So that could be very distracting. But at the same time, when I think about it, there's so much administrative things that went out of the way, like things like commuting, things like Subin mentioned, laundry to go and sit in an office, right? So now I can still probably be in my pajamas, something like if I'm in a video call, put a nice top on. Um, so like those things at least go away, but also like even in the middle of the day you can do things like you want to do. You don't really need a whole lot of time. Maybe you just need 10-15 minutes to do a task or activity in the house, and you can easily just disconnect, do that, and come back. So I think there's definitely a better balance holistically. Like for me, I have dogs, so a normal office day would be I would leave at 7 in the morning and not be able to get home at 6. I want to make sure my dogs need to go out and do their business. And, so I'm always like ticking on my time and watching the clock to make
Hmm.
sure I get time. It's not too hard for them, right? Now I don't even have to worry about that. I'll get a 5 minute break. I'll take them out. I'll spend some time. I'll come back in my office and then I'll go on with my day, right? So it's definitely helped. Like if I have family members visiting, I don't have to say, hey, I am out the entire day for 5 days or 4 days of a week and I'm not going to have time. Now I can say, hey, I have these family relatives visiting, they're staying with me. I can probably do breakfast with them, go work. I can do lunch with them, go work, and then at the end
Hmm.
of the day, still spend the
Yeah.
rest of the time. So I think it absolutely helps to be able to do remote work. Now, also those family members maybe could be a distraction at times, so that's where you have to set your boundaries with your family members.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, Umit.
I think for me, I was talking about this to a colleague of mine the other day. For me, I don't know, after pandemic, my calendar has just been busy, right? And I think it's because we are available frequently now. And what I mean by that is people can schedule Zoom meetings and you can put it back to back, right? Say, oh, like I'm meeting somebody from 1 to 2, and I do that. And then, oh, I can meet somebody from 2 to 3. Whereas previously, most of the meetings would be face to face. So you have to either you have to plan the commute, saying, oh, like, I have to go from this place to this place. So it's going to take a couple of minutes or something like that. But now I find myself just sitting in front of my computer like for hours and doing meetings, and those are exhaustive for me, right? Like 3 hours of meeting right back to back, I just get drained and I
Mhm.
cannot be productive for the rest of the day. So I think in that sense it has caused a little bit of havoc for me, right? Like, because you're just meeting people left and right. But then what Irina said, I think there is some positive to that, where depending on your personality and who you are, if you are able to put those boundaries and say, hey, like, I'm going to spend time with this person, right? Or you have relatives coming in, uh, then that's good for you, right? But I've also seen folks who have their family members and they're just locked away in the room like for 8 hours. And everybody's sitting outside, like wondering what the heck this person is doing in that room, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it can go both ways. But for me, I feel like I feel like it has really busied my calendar.
So, do you put all your meetings in one day, or you like that, or you
I
wanna?
try to. I try to kind of sparse them out. I try to keep them separate, but because everybody is busy, so it's not just my calendar, right? The person that I am meeting also, it depends on their availability, and they're like, oh no, I can, I'm only available on these days, or maybe people are putting boundaries and they say, oh, I just want to meet folks on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? And they could say that to me, and I'd be like, okay, like let's do that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I have. Like, I put my meeting on certain days so that
yeah,
I have free days on the other. Because,
yeah,
like you mentioned, I cannot work any productive work when I
yep,
have to think if I have meetings on that day or if
yeah,
I came out of a meeting. Like, I don't know about you know when you mentioned that you can go back from doing other things and go back to work. I would love to do that. Teach me how to do that because I cannot do it. If I have something else and coming back to that is not happening.
yeah.
So even if I have a meeting, then after the meeting, I cannot focus.
Yeah, context switching is a big, very difficult thing. Go ahead, Irina.
No, no. Yeah, I mean, it's not definitely easy. I think it's easier when it's, if I'm going for lunch and then I have a meeting, because then
Yeah.
I'm forced to be talking with these people. But yeah, to have your brain focused, I think a lot of my productive work probably happens after 2 or 3 p.m. for me, only because a lot of my team members are in the East Coast. So a lot of my
Ah,
meetings are done. So a lot of the collaboration and the meetings are done by then. And then I've got my quiet time later in the day. But yeah, to your point, it is difficult to switch that context. But if it's a meeting and you're actually talking to them, you're almost forced to really be
yeah.
present, right? And the person's kind of like looping you into the conversation and providing you the context to think about it. So I think that helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Context switching is something that I talk about a lot, especially in software development and in any engineering, any very brain focused work. There's study after study that shows that it takes our brain at least 20 minutes to get into a groove of actually producing something, being productive, right? In my line of work, software engineering, if I'm doing engineering work, like sometimes obviously I do non-engineering work as well, those kind of things, you can, people talk about ticking off tasks, 5 minute tasks or 10 minutes tasks, and yeah, you could do those without switching context. But if for my work, for most of my work, it's I require minimum of 2 hours, straight 2 hours without any interruption, and I say minimum, um, to be able to do productive work. So I you know again, all of the conversations that we're having right now is almost too relevant for me, because uh, even before COVID, I was working from home twice a week. Before that, I was having meetings at 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., and people could, because in the software industry, we've obviously we're ahead of the game, in quotes, in terms of this remote work and things like that. So we've I've had to find that kind of balance before this whole COVID disrupted everybody's work life. But that's how it's been for us this whole time. So I think we've just had a little more time to adjust to these kind of things. But yeah, so for me, the most important thing is context. So I always try to always I shouldn't say always, but a lot of the times I try to put meetings, like Irina said, earlier in the day. I know that until 1 p.m. I'm probably not going to get a lot of engineering work done, because there's just so many discussions and meetings that happens, and that's the collaboration time. And then after 1 p.m., late at night, as I mentioned earlier, is when my brain actually works to sit down and focus. I talk about focus a lot. That's the most important thing, right? Like when I'm focusing on one thing, I cannot do more than one thing. And I mean, I'm not going to be able to do two things well at the same time, unless it's like menial, checking things off and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, so I like the point when you mentioned that it takes 20 minutes to focus. Is that what you said? Because
It's
for
yeah, the
me,
study after study about, there's different varying times, but I agree that 20 minutes seems like the ideal time, but there's studies of the 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah.
so for me, I when I have hard time focusing on something, I put a 15 minutes timer, because what I've noticed is if I make myself sit down for 15 minutes and then try to do that
Hmm.
whatever I want to do, then after 15 minutes I somehow calm down, and then I work for another 45 minutes and it becomes like an hour of focused work. So
Yep.
I didn't know there was a research with
Yeah.
20 minutes. That's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Subin, you didn't say anything about, do you like remote working or no? I mean, you said you
Oh yeah.
used to, but already working before the pandemic. So do you like working from home?
Yeah, obviously, I think all the benefits that these guys talked about are definitely there. Additional examples, like my wife, she will, in the middle of the day, there's no meeting, she'll do workouts in the middle of the day, like half an hour, go for a run. You could do yoga and exercises and things like that. So all the benefits that you guys talked about, obviously, I take advantage of that, and I've again been working remotely for longer, and I've enjoyed those benefits. But I do also like going to the office maybe once or twice a week. We're all, you know, everybody says, and probably true, that I'm an extrovert, but I also have introvert tendencies. I do need my quiet time. I do need a downtime. I do need alone time as well. But I think even introverts, we're all humans. We're social beings. Seeing somebody's face, just if you're close enough with the workers, a hug or a handshake has a physical sensation, creates bonding that is so elemental to us as humans. And I enjoy that. I always joke that one of the reasons I like to going to the office is at least I get to eat out lunch once a week. Because at home we're always eating leftovers from last night, or I go. I go to the fridge and open up, and it's like, what do I go? Okay, another frozen food day, or another two pieces of bread and something in the middle day. Just make something up. But if you go to the office, you might go out for lunch with your coworkers or coffee. Just that sense of difference, I definitely enjoy as well. So I think this hybrid work
Mhm.
from home route that the industry is going towards, I hope everybody keeps that. I think uh, it's okay. I don't want to say it's okay to force people to come to the office, but I think companies can do a better job of explaining or giving reasons for people to want to come to the office, once a day or once a week or twice a week or three times a week. Obviously, forcing on either direction, like it's only work from home or only working from the office, is probably not good. Humans don't like to be forced. But yeah, I think both have their share of benefits. But because we live in such a busy world these days, we have kids, like you can't get anything done after 5 p.m. You got to take the kid to a dentist or a doctor, and you got to pick up medications, whatever it be. a lot of the things that, even things like dry, what's that called, dry laundry, dry cleaning, sometimes you have to go before 5 o'clock, so those kind of chores, we're able to do them because we can work from home and we don't have to go to the office and commute and things like that. But again, I do like going to the office and talking to people, meeting people as well, not for the benefits that Microsoft and Facebook and all of these companies are, Meta, are saying. Oh, we were just talking about this yesterday. All of these companies are talking about, oh, the hallway conversations, we're going to miss out on the creativity that comes out in this hallway conversations. I'm like, no, man. In the hallway, we're just talking about our kids and our dogs, creative coming out.
Yeah.
That does happen, but that's kind of rare that, oh, all of a sudden this brilliant idea comes about in a hallway conversation. I think what is more important is the creative freedom. If our brain feels free, then those kind of sparks of creativity will come out, and that can come out while you and I are talking over Zoom or in a hallway or in a phone call. So I think it's more important to give people the brain freedom of the brain to just be thinking freely than forcing people to come to the office and saying, "Hey, you guys." You're gonna meet each other in the hallway, and all of a sudden, a brilliant idea is gonna come about. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I like the hybrid approach for sure, because yeah, we are all social beings, so that contact, human communication, and getting in somebody in the room, plus, but also being able to have that remote work. I think that's the a good balance. I think with being in the office, yeah, it may not be the great grand ideas, right? It's probably more for networking and knowing
yeah,
people, getting a closer connection that you may not do over a Zoom call. Maybe that's the benefit of it. And really, I guess, as a human being, more of the social interactions. I think that flexibility is key.
I do want to add one more thing. So I've realized, you guys know I can talk a lot about anything and everything.
Yes.
But one of the disadvantages for me of going to work is just having almost too much time to talk about anything and everything. And sometimes the personal comes in the way, gets in the way, and I find myself just randomly telling my coworker about all of my house problems, and I'm like, I didn't need to tell him all of this. So it's good if the remote work is good for a person like me who sometimes doesn't have the willpower or self-control to talk about personal stuff. So at home, nobody's talking to me, we're just talking about in Slack about work, and that's good for me as well. Maybe it doesn't apply to you guys, but definitely for me.
I mean, I enjoy those hallway discussions and learning about my coworkers' house problems. I think that's life, right? And I think there's something about that. And I have also started going to work 3 times a week now. I don't have to, but but I do want to go in and have that personal touch, personal connection, and having those conversations, because I think those conversations are the thread that kind of brings us together, right? If you're only talking about work, then I don't know, those relationships are really difficult to foster. So I am more now going to the office, trying to make those connections, talking, hey, like, how's your day going? What did you do over the weekend? And I think that really brings folks closer, and maybe some ideas would come out of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the life part within your work,
Uh-huh.
that right. So you're having
Yeah.
life conversations with your coworkers. And I've had incidents where you talk about a problem, you're like, oh, I did this, or it's not, something's not working out. Oh, my house project, something needs to be
Hmm.
done, and then you're like, hey, I use this contractor, maybe use this contractor.
Yeah,
Well, then it's problem solving, not for
absolutely.
your work but for your life situation.
Yeah.
So
So I was going to add to that because I have a different view on this hallway conversation because similar to what Irna mentioned. So for me, when I was doing my PhD, I solved all of my problems by talking to people than going and reading things because it's all my problem I solve in 5 minutes versus I go
Yeah.
and for solutions online or read papers. And not only that, there was an anxiety part of it where I'm like anxious about finding. So it's better for me to just go and ask, which was easier when we were
Hmm.
working in office
Yeah.
than now, because now I have to set up a meeting and find a time where it works for both of us, and then meet in Zoom, versus I could just walk into their office and
Yeah.
then ask that. And then the other thing I actually, so this is so looks like we all like working from home. That's what I gathered, and I was going to follow up with the another question, like, would you go back and work? Which I again feel that nobody wants to go, and then maybe hybrid is the
Yeah,
solution, right? That
yeah.
that we all
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
So now this is something that I am struggling with a little bit nowadays. Is I moved to places from I don't know, in the past 2 years I moved two different states, and my work is in New York, and I live now in DC. And so in the past, I made my friends through school and through work. And so since I work from home or remotely, I'm having hard time making friends because I don't see any people. I don't need to go and see any people, and then I'm trying to make friends through volunteering and and doing stuff in the community. But I am finding that is not easy versus how it was easier. I mean, I think it
Hmm.
is easier to make friends at work. So what do you guys think about that? So since you work from home, do you, and maybe you guys have family, so you don't care because you are too busy with your family. I don't know. But how about friends and the community? How is that? How is it? How are those things affected? Or do you, how do you tackle those problems also in that sense? I want to hear from you guys.
I I think it's difficult to make friends once you're an adult because
In
everybody's busy
general.
with their life. They have their own line of thought, and it's the part that I also struggle with, right? And it's really difficult. And I pause because a couple of weeks ago, our neighbors invited us for a dinner, and they're really younger than us, so they're in their 20s, and their idea of having a dinner is totally different than what our idea was, because that dinner went on till like 1 a.m. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I'm tired. I gotta go mow my lawn tomorrow. I gotta go to Home Depot to do this.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting there, right? And the folks around me are just like dancing, singing, and I'm just like, no, I gotta
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yeah.
And nothing against them, right? Super nice folks, and they had good intention, and they enjoyed the night. But that's the thing, right? I was like, I felt like I was putting myself out there. I was like, oh, I want to be friends with these folks, but that I think we're on totally different frequency.
Yep.
So yeah, so it is difficult to make friends. Once you're in your 30s or in your 40s, I think that's a difficult task, and maybe that's why we have so many engaging conversation in our Viber group, because right, because like we're
Because we don't have
like-minded
any
people.
new friends.
Yeah, like we're
Yep.
just in that
Yep.
circle, right? Like going back and forth,
Yep.
and it's just easy. So maybe that has taken the place of having a real physical friend. I don't know. That might be something to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Biswash that with if you don't go to work, you don't have your work friends anymore. Because when I was going to work here, we used to do happy hours in the evenings, right? Not everybody can make it, but the people
Hmm.
who can make it and just enjoy a drink after work. So we used to do those every few weeks, and so that was my work friends, and I used to enjoy getting to know them outside of work and just having casual conversations. Now that's out of the way. That's out of question because everybody's home. And so to try to even coordinate, I mean, we've tried and it hasn't happened because everybody's just in their own worlds, busy, and it's not everybody's already in the office like they used to. So that plays a big role. And yeah, I guess to Umit's point of as you get older, it's harder to make friends because your life phases are different and
Yes.
the activities that you're different and your viewpoints are
Yep.
also different. And I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, two things. One, in terms of online community, definitely not just for us. I think, we talk to people in general about teenagers these days. Even before COVID, but even more so after COVID. I have two nieces that came in June here to see me. They loved me. I love them. I've seen them since they're 1 year old, but they're 15 and 13 now, and I barely know how to talk to them anymore because they'll eat breakfast or something and immediately they're on the phone. And I'm not saying anything bad about it.
Yeah.
Generations change and things like that, but yeah, so online has definitely replaced I think for most humans, definitely in the Western world, I recently went to Nepal. It's similar in there as well. Friendship and any kind of community has definitely moved from the real world or
Mm-hmm.
the physical world to the virtual or dynamic or the virtual or the online world, right? So that's true for everyone, I think, and even more so for from a work perspective, not being able to make friends. And the second thing I wanted to add, and again, I'm just repeating myself, as we get older, it's just difficult to make friends in general.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you guys have already mentioned the different viewpoints and things like that. However, I have found I recently made a couple of new guy friends, and I'm really, really close with them. And I find it very strange that I made such close friends such late in life. I mean, I know I'm not like 60 years old or anything like that, and we still have some time left in life, hopefully. But we just bonded and we talked about similar things and we talked non superficial stuff. So I did make new friends later in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is now working with me, and one of them is just a friend's husband and things like that. But I did find that the bond is closer
Mm-hmm.
because there's fewer of them,
Yeah.
um, and we talk. There's this quote that people use in movies and TV shows, and I sometimes use as well. But something like, if you and I had met today, would we be friends? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Like in college and when we were young, we are willing to compromise our personal values, and we may even not have strong value system, and we're friends with anyone and everyone. And that's good. It should be the way forever. But as we
Mm-hmm.
grow older, we build up a tolerance, or we're less tolerant of people of opposing ideas, and so
Mm-hmm.
we just don't even put that effort to be friends with people if we feel a sense of unease. It may not be political. That's probably the biggest barrier these days. Like, as soon as somebody puts out their political uh, preferences, you're like,
Yeah.
what is this guy talking about? So
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest barrier. But even outside of that, there could be sports things. If you're a football fan versus a baseball fan, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about baseball with this guy. I'm just giving an
Mm-hmm.
example. So, but when we're kids, anything and everything goes. So you make a diverse set of friends.
Yeah.
When we get older, we probably make fewer friends, but they're much more in line with our own sense of values and things like that.
Yeah,
I
and
Yeah.
Go ahead, Arena.
I was just gonna say it too. And kind of thinking about like how do you make these new friends? Like Biswas was just saying, maybe try it through volunteering or things like that. It's I don't think it's easy. Like for me, um, I play volleyball in the weekends and I've got a group of friends. And so that kind of motivates us to go every week. Like if you didn't do it every week, then you're not probably going to meet them once in a few weeks or once in a few months, right? But like having an activity like that, like, oh, okay, everybody goes play volleyball. And then we play volleyball. And so right after volleyball, we're like, okay, let's just get some takeout and all of us just eat, at a place. And so it just becomes a natural flow of motion because now you've committed to this one activity that everybody enjoys, and from that activity now you're building your social structure based on that, right? So just one example.
Yeah, I wanted to give example of the online community, and it just occurred to me right now is that I did not know you guys before, right? Like I came into your group circle, what, like, oh my
Three,
god, like,
4 years ago. This is
yeah,
for the fantasy football
yeah.
thing,
This
I
was
think.
this stemmed out of the fantasy football league,
Hmm.
and that group just took off, right? And now we're just not limited to fantasy football. Gosh, we started a podcast, right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there is something about that, right? And I was talking, I was like, oh, like this came out of like, you could consider it to be like an online community where I did not meet anyone. And
In
then
fact, how many of us have you actually still met? I think I've only met you once.
yeah, I've met you once. I've
Yeah,
met Biswas once.
yeah.
Manish is the
I've
most
been to your
regular.
house and have lunch
Yeah,
or dinner once. Yeah.
yeah. That
And
was the only time, right? Like
yeah.
you were coming to Colorado and you came there.
Hmm.
And then Utsav Dai, like he is my brother-in-law. So that's how I got into this group.
Mhm.
And now I think you guys are the most
Friendly
what
friend.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the most I talk to, then even like my childhood friends, because
Right.
right, like so that's something interesting, right? And I was talking, I was like, oh, like this came as a outcome like of this community, if you want to call it. So
Yeah, and
that's
I think
interesting.
I think that's a natural growth of the technology and the state of the world we're in, rather than a COVID or anything like that, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
technology. I mean, I always go back to my example of, like, when we first came from Nepal here, talking to our parents was such a chore, right? We have to
Hmm.
go buy a card, international
Yeah.
phone calling card, and then call them at a specific time, and maybe they'll answer, and there was always a 2 or 3 second delay. And if you didn't already have that practice of talking to people in Nepal, there was always like, huh, what did you say? And then you're talking over each other, right? It was so yeah, right. So
Yeah.
but these days, with technology, I always go back. I don't think most humans realize how big of a deal technology is.
Yeah.
I can talk to my mom, and I said "Ma," and then she's already heard it halfway across the world.
Hmm.
It's so instant. It's as if she's in this room, if I'm
Yeah.
talking to you guys. So our sense of what is friendship, what is communication, what is connection has
Yeah.
changed so much in the last 10, 15 years. And so, we are probably in the middle generation where we entered into technology, and now it's here, and we kind of know the past before technology, and we also know we entered into technology, and we're living and breathing technology. But then there's this two generations before and after us. For the older folks, obviously everybody's used to it now at this point. Even the older folks, my mom and my dad, they can use technology just as well as I can, pretty much. But it's still a little bit of disconnect there for them, I think, compared to face, because they're just. And then the newer generation, like, they probably are much better at speaking online than at a human level. So I find that to be very interesting as well.
So I want to thank you guys because you just answered one of my dilemma that I was having for the past, I don't know, 6 months or a year. That what if I'm living my life online? Because it
Yep.
seems like you guys mentioned, you guys are my community, right? So our Saint Xavier's group and our football group and the fantasy group. That's where I share most of my angst and excitement and whatnot. But I also sometimes worry or wonder, like, oh, am I living my life online, and then what about my physical community, which I that's what I was trying to ask you guys about how to build one. But looks like from here, this short conversation here, I feel like, okay, I'm not the only one who has that kind of life, where my community is now people all around the country, and they are in Viber and now in Zencaster making this podcast. Now
But
we're
sorry,
yeah.
I just want to add. But that being said, I do want to say that me and my wife Ritu, we actively make an effort to meet people in person as well. Like, that is still very important to us. We have a group of friends here that we meet. Literally, we met yesterday. We'll be meeting them next week as well. Like Irina said, I think it's still very important to have that
Mhm.
face to face human connection. I'll these new friends that I've made. Uh, we actively plan for, okay, the kids are going to be taken care of by our wives. Let's just hang out and have a couple of beers, or let's go play soccer or whatever it is. So I do want to stress that. I think human face-to-face connection is still very important. It's just the nature of the world right now that we have a lot of communication online. But I personally do think everybody should still make an effort to meet folks in person, because, again, humans, technology has only been around us for 20 years, but humans, we've been around for 7,000 years, if you want to believe that shit. But millions of years. So that human connection is not going to go away in just like 10, 20 years.
Yeah, on that note, now actually we are on the right, way. I mean, this is a good segue towards our last part of the segment, where I wanted to discuss about self-care, time management, and so we just talked about how it is important to connect to the community, have time for friends, make friends. So part of work-life balance is, I guess, finding time to work on our passion or work on our hobbies. So I wanted to have a little discussion about, now this is more like, I put this as a relief. We discuss about how it is important to have work-life balance and what it means, but now how to have a work-life balance, meaning how to find time to do all these things that we want to do. So I want you guys to please let us know about your ideas about what you guys do and how do you find time to have your hobbies and passion. or
Before we
have
answer
this
that,
work-life balance?
I want to put Biswas on the spot, just like I did with Umid last time, because you've been asking a lot of questions. So I think for this question, I think you should start with your own answer. How have you tried to do that? We've been talking a lot. Unless you want to go last, which is fine as well. I don't want to
No,
actually
no,
put you
that's
on the
fine.
spot.
Now I'm on the spot, so I'm not gonna, say no, no.
Back out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna back out. So,
Okay.
as I was listening to you guys, so I want to start with a little bit about my past, as in like my earlier career. So, when I started working after my master's, I don't know, a thought had come to me that, oh, when I start working, I'm going to go volunteer, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat balanced diet. And I don't know, so for me, my early career, I focused on those things, that focusing just on work, because I thought, now I'm done with my schoolwork, maybe that's why that thought came to me. So uh, in a way, I was doing all these things along with my work, and now I heard you guys, I'm like, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should have focused more on my career, maybe in my earlier career, early career time, and maybe I focus more on other things than just my career. So so I have been doing that all these years since I started working in the industry, taking care of myself. Actually, that happened once I started working. Before that, yes, when I was in school, I worked. I mean, I only focused on school, and that's it. As long as I was doing my homework and studying and thinking about studying, I wasn't doing anything else. But once I started working, I divided my time into working out, and eating healthy, all those stuff, and then maybe even uh, like go hiking and all. So, but um, yeah, those are the things I do. For That's what it means to have a balanced life for me. That I'm not just focusing on my work, but also in other things. But what I struggle with is switching off, because for me, I am like Irina mentioned, her focus time is at 2 p.m. My focus time is at 3 a.m. If I don't work those time at that time, then all day I cannot focus. And so for the past, I don't know, 7 6 6 7 years, my problem was, um, either I am working or I'm worried about not working, and I am still working on not thinking about not working, or why am I not working, or I should be working. Those thoughts, I'm trying to fend them away as much as I can by meditating, by working out, and spending time with loved ones like family and friends. And that's what I do. And in terms of time management, I have a like I have a routine, and I it's like sometimes I feel I work like my routine is like robot. So
You
yeah,
probably
you guys
learned.
go ahead.
Yeah, you probably figured out the balance way earlier than because we were all just focused
Yeah.
on work and not on health. You know that saying that they say, like, when you're young, you have time and health but no money. When
Yeah.
you're
Hmm.
middle aged, you have money and health but no time. And then when you're old, you have money and time but no health. So you've got the trifecta. Is like, I guess all of us are trying to balance that. Like, we're all
Hmm.
middle aged, right, right now. So we're at a phase where we're like, okay.
That's weird to say that we're middle
Yeah.
aged.
Sounds so weird. But yeah, because I think I wanted to add to that. I think you and I are similar in this way that we worry more than we need to. In that you probably figured it. Like we've talked about this before. You say robotic, I say disciplined. You have a very disciplined structure, and you figure out what works for you. And you obviously still struggling because that's who you are as a person, and I'm the same way. But I get this feedback from people all the time, and everybody is in the same boat. And in fact, a lot of people see you and maybe me, I don't know, I don't want to speak about that, but and see that, oh, he's already figured it out. He's got a schedule going on. He knows what concerns him and doesn't concern him. He knows what distracts him and doesn't distract him. So he's already figured out. For a lot of people, they're just struggling. I should probably include myself in that. We're just struggling. What you said about worrying, like it's so true. I'm always worried. In fact, when you ask the question about how do you guys find time, I'm always like, I never have enough time. I have so many interests. There's never enough time, to get everything done outside of work or even at work, right? There's so much we can do. Um, and there was a point I was going to make about that, but now I forgot. But what I was trying to say is, I think, you know, it's a constant evolution in progress. And oh yeah, I was gonna say, so you use the word should, and this is my latest revelation from the last 3 4 years. So some of you may not know, I did go to therapy because I do have a lot of anxiety. I worry way more than like most people know or think I do. I'm con- I always bring back this latest movie that just came out has been so helpful for me to explain to people how my brain works. This movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I always say my brain is everything everywhere all at once. I'm thinking about 100,000 things all at once, and I'm always worried. But one thing that I've learned and I've tried to eliminate is the word should in my life. All my life. I think it's an Asian culture thing. It could be even more specific to me because of how I was raised and my school and things. We are always thinking about what I should do or what one should do, one other person should do, what Barack Obama should do, or what we speak in terms of what Nepali Congress should do, what my parents should do, what my child should do. There's a lot of should in our life. And that may not be as harmful, but when you start to apply that should to yourself, I always say I used to think I should eat instead of I want to eat. Such a basic difference in how you speak to yourself. Oh, I haven't eaten in 3 hours. I should be hungry. Instead of am I hungry or not hungry? I want to eat. So I implore other people if they're struggling with this kind of like what's the word forced response.
Obligation.
Yeah, exactly.
Obligation.
Obligation
Yep.
forces responsibility on yourself is what I've learned is to eliminate the word should and replace that with want. Instead of saying I should do this, I replace it with I want to do this. I should, even taking a break used to be, I should take a break. I've been working for such a long time. I should take a break. But that's obligate. But so now I've tried to change that to say something like I want to take a break because I've done enough work. And instead of saying, because the problem with should is, even if I say I should take a break, there's the other voice saying, but then I should keep on working as well. So it's in constant disarray, really. Constant contradiction of each other. I should take a break, but I should also work. But now I try to say I want to take a break, and then I will come back to work when I need to. Umid, you were going to say something, I think. I had thought. Oh, you're on mute, Umid. You muted yourself, I think.
Oh, sorry. I forgot what I was going to say. What was the question? Because we've been talking
Just
about
in
so
terms,
many
yeah,
different things, right?
I
I'm
know.
like,
Probably part of how do you find ways to balance your life and find time for your other passions and family and stuff?
So
um,
what do you do for balanced life? Like
yeah.
have a work balanced life, and how do you find to do them?
This might be a easy way out that I've taken, but having a kid kind of took most of my time, and I did not pursue my hobbies or anything for the last 5 years. And I make this joke when our son first went to the kindergarten, my wife and I looked at each other and was like, we have so much time, right? Because he was born in 19 so he was born in 2018, and then the pandemic happened, so he was with us throughout. Then we went to preschool, but he was there only for 4 hours. But he's been with us for the most part of his life, and now he's off, right? He's gone for this chunk of 7 or 8 hours, and we kind of looked at each other like, what do we want to do, right? And but we ended up at Home Depot that day. I was like, we need to do this. But now I'm starting to, oh, like I have time to read my favorite book now, right, or something like that. So that's now I'm kind of reimagining my time now, where I'm like, oh, like now I have time to read a book. Now I have time to listen to songs and things like that. Before, it used to be like work and home, and mostly I have to take care of my child or things like that, although my wife takes most of that burden. But I have to be present. So now I'm kind of feeling what's out there, right? So I'm still in this phase of rediscovering, oh, like what fun things can I do this weekend, like and now Rian is at an age where where he can participate as well. So now, like as a family, we're trying to reconfigure that. Oh, like we want to go hiking this weekend. Oh, we want to do it this weekend, right? So we're kind of figuring that out in this phase, and I think that's okay too. So yeah, that's where I am at right now, is to try to find new hobbies, but also to see what everybody as a family we can enjoy.
So to Subin's point, what you want to do versus what you should do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, 100%.
How about you, Ina?
Yeah, I
How do you
mean,
find that?
yeah. So my passion, like outside of work, I enjoy doing all sorts of like outdoors activities. Like I enjoy hiking. I enjoy traveling. I've picked up during the pandemic tennis. I've recently taken up karate. So I mean, I don't always do all of these things all at once, but I kind of
Mhm.
do it once in a while. Some of them are more regular than others. So but I know like some of the things like travel once a year. I know I will plan a trip that is on my to-do list. Like it's a want, it's not a should, and I will absolutely do it, right? So it's like it's one of the things that I will absolutely do. And then like I've been trying to be more disciplined where like in terms of health, like exercise should be an event, but if it's not fun, nobody wants to exercise. So what do I want to do? So that the activities that I want to do that will make it fun. I enjoy tennis, that I've been trying to pick up and learn. I've been trying to pick up and learn karate through my classes. So that's what I enjoy. So those are the things that I've been wanting to do. So it's interesting that we kind of talked about it more from a should versus want, because I do agree. There's a lot of things we say we're obligated to do, but if you really
Hmm.
take a step back, and I think about our parents generation too, like they're like, oh, culturally you should do this, but I'm like, but do you have to? Like, is it
Right.
really a should, or like what's the consequence? Is it really a life and death situation consequence if you didn't do it? Like what's the consequence, right? So
Hmm.
that's where the mindset is.
Yeah, I mean, so sounds like you guys all add these or have these activities in your life or your day-to-day life and put that intentionally so that you have that balance. So one thing I started doing, or I at least uh, think about doing day to day, is fill my schedule with things I want to do. Like most of the things that I have in my schedule, except for sometimes some things that I don't want to do in the for my work, those are something that needs to be done. But otherwise, everything that happens in my day are mostly, at least as of now, at least now that I don't have a kid or because or a family, so maybe that's why it's possible that I fill my schedule with things that I want to do, and that has helped me at least feel better that, oh, at least I mean, I'm doing what I want to do and not doing what I don't find fun. So in a way, I'm having fun life. So now we are like almost what 1 hour 15 minutes. So actually, we are. It's good that we close this. But before we close this episode, I wanted to just give you guys an opportunity. If you guys have any parting thoughts for people or our listeners, how how what can they do or what they should be doing or they should be doing to have a work life balance. Is there any thoughts on that? I mean, that would be a good way to close this episode, I think. Anybody?
I have a thought that might sum it up. Um, and I think it's good in the context of the US work culture versus other countries' work culture is that here a lot of us probably we work to live versus or we live to work versus working to live, right? So that's the one thing I think you always have to keep in mind is you you don't live to work. So
So for me, if I was to give out any parting words, and I feel like I should come up with some wise words here. But what I would say
No
is
pressure.
no pressure, right? What I would say is this is such an individual journey. do what's right for you. I think everybody's journey is different, everybody's career trajectory is different, and I think what we have discovered, right, discussing in today's podcast with folks from different career, is that this looks different for everybody. So I think that's where I would leave, is that do what's right for you, do what you find is pleasurable. And I think don't compare your career to others, because I think that tends to impact negatively. And and one thing I'll also bring in here is the culture, and maybe this is the Asian culture, I don't know, but we tend to be more of people pleaser, right? We are so much worried about what others are thinking, and I think that also impacts our performance and how much well we want to do. And I think to be cognizant of that is also really important. So yeah, that's where I would leave off our viewers and listeners, is do what's right for you, right? If you feel like you're working too much, take some time off, right? If you can, and manage that. And I think, again, I go back to this saying that we all are in such a different journey, that this work life balance is going to look different for everyone, right? So what's going to look right for me is not going to be right for you. So we have to find that on our own in that personal journey.
Yeah, and just to add to that, sorry, I forgot to mention, ask for help. Like
Yeah.
we forget that, we're always struggling with ourselves, and we always again, maybe Asian culture thing, but we're shameful that we're not able to do as well as somebody else, and we think everybody has it figured out. Like this was some of the things that you said. It keeps going back to, oh, I'm so happy that I'm not the only one. You guys feel this way too, because we don't talk about these kind of things in public and often enough. We always think that I'm struggling with this and nobody else is. Everybody else has their life figured out. But honestly, again, I try to tell. I mean, I don't think it's clear to anyone that I have my life figured out. But if anybody ever thought that I have my life figured out, then they're 100% wrong, right? So,
Yeah.
so definitely ask for help, ask for guidance from other people who you think have figured it out, and more than likely they'll tell you the same thing that I have, which is, I don't have it figured out, but this is how I do things, and maybe this will work for you, but it may not, But most important is to know that other people are struggling as much, if not more, as you. And what is that saying that we say? Adults are just overgrown babies, right? We're just overgrown babies. We're all still just trying to figure out. We don't feel like we're almost 40 years old. We all feel like we're still 18 years old. And if we sound like we've made it, or we sound like we're doing well, then that's just because we're very good at pretending. That's all.
Yeah. And the journey being individual, right? In work, and I think in life too. Don't compare your life to other people. What's their goal is probably not your goal. So
Yeah. And
Exactly.
take care of your mental health, right? That thing is real. We often don't talk about it, especially in our culture. I feel like that gets swept under a rug. So, mental health, please take time to reset yourself. Like Sabine said, please reach out. There are lots of resources out there. And it is important that we take care of our physical health, but it's also important that we take care of our mental health.
Which is one of the topics that we will be talking about in one of our later podcasts as well.
Absolutely.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
Well, on that note,
Yep.
yeah, we'll be talking about so many things in our future episodes. So, yeah, everybody should tune into our podcast. So, thank you very much, guys. And I learned a few things from you guys, not just few, a lot. And I hope our listeners also had a good listen from these three wonderful individuals here who shared their
Four,
stories. And,
including
okay,
you.
four, and
Four, including
including
you.
me. And so thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for your time. And I definitely enjoyed our conversation this morning. And on that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who's listening to us. And thank you very much.
Yeah, and
Have
thank
a
you,
good
Irina,
day.
for joining this
oh yeah,
uh,
happy to join
ha-
and have this conversation.
haphazard of a podcast that we're still trying to, improve and stuff. So
Yeah,
hopefully
and then
we will have
also
more
I
guests.
wanted to close this with what Irna said. Actually, I wanted to do that. So
Go ahead.
work to live, and no,
Live to work.
work to live, but not
Live
live to
to
work.
work.
No, no,
Let's
it's the
close on
opposite.
that note.
It's
Yeah, yeah, it is. Work to live,
oh, work to live. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Work
yeah.
not
to
live to
live to
work.
work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.